Hi everyone, it's Louise again. Lesson 18. This lesson today is a vocabulary focus. Now, if we were together in the classroom, we'd be doing all of this together. And you know, when we're doing vocabulary and morphology, there's usually lots of games. So today it's a much shorter lesson because it's lots of us talking. You do need to be doing the thinking at home. Call out the answers that come to you and I will keep an ear out. Okay, so vocabulary focus today, we have a learning intention that has two parts. So the first part of our lesson, we are going to be looking at two new vocabulary words that have the air phoneme grapheme in them. And then the second part of the lesson, we're going to do a jumbled story and put it back together because we'll be discussing author's choice around vocabulary and sentence structure. Okay, let's get to that first part of our lesson. Come across to the board to our very first word here. So the word is lair. Have you heard that word before? If you haven't, now listen to the definition. So it's a noun, it's a place. A lair is a place where a wild animal, especially a fierce or dangerous one, lives. Okay, so it's quite dramatic. It's got lots of drama around this word, a lair. Now come over and have a look at these pictures of some different types of lairs. You can see that it's kind of subterranean. It looks below or deep inside the earth. You can see this one looks like a really, really long cave. It's actually quite terrifying. I don't want to find out what lives at the end of that tunnel, that's for sure. And over here, this might not come up on camera very well because it's totally dark. It's almost pitch black. I can see there's lots of boulders and rocks and stones and stalagmites and stalactites. That looks like quite a creepy lair as well. So say to yourself the word lair. Now say out loud what a lair is. Can I hear you? Yeah, it's a place where a wild animal lives. Excellent. Let's come to our second word for vocabulary today. So repair is a word that we use all the time, but when we're talking about definitions and being precise and accurate, it's good to know what the word really does mean. So repair, re means again, remember, repair. So this is a verb. Today we're using this word as a verb. So it means to restore something damaged, faulty, or worn to a good condition. So, this is something that's happened to me maybe 4 times. I've had to have my iPhone repaired, especially if I drop it and crack that screen. So I take it to be repaired and they fix the screen. Here you can see that this is a picture where there's been some holes in some jeans and they've repaired that piece of clothing using thread. Now, I also know that the fashion these days is to have lots of holes in your jeans, so maybe that wasn't a good picture for me to choose today. Who's got holes in their jeans today? Fashion, or does it need to be repaired? Excellent. They are our two vocabulary words. Let's say it. Lair and repair. Excellent. We are now going on to the second part of our lesson where we are going to have a bit of a story that's all been jumbled up. We have to work out together where we need to put the pieces like a puzzle all together so that this makes sense. So let's have a look over here on our sentences, and some of them are fragments, some of them are not full sentences. We need to put them together to make sense. Can you zoom in here and just when you have that ready to read, pause the video, read through each of these parts and start to come up with some sentences that you think belong together. Pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, how did you go with reading through? Did you start to see and notice parts of these sentences that work together so they form a full sentence? Did you start to piece these into sentences in some kind of order? What do you think this story starts with? I'm going to take these down, and while I'm doing that, I would like you to think of which one we should start our story with. I'll give you a hint. The very first sentence of this story, it's a narrative, ends in an exclamation mark. So can you find the fragment over here or the sentence that ends in an exclamation point? Found it? Okay, I've got it. Here we go. I didn't see the danger. I didn't see the danger. Now, why have I done that with my voice? Well, absolutely, if you listen to someone read and they sound like a robot, you switch off and you don't want to listen. But also it's telling me here, I need to add some drama to my voice. Let's read that together. I didn't see the danger. Okay, so what happens next? I didn't see the danger. I slowly looked around. It doesn't flow, does it? The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Now that could actually work, but I'm going to give you a hint. It's something about the trap. Can you find the part of the story about the trap? Have you found it? Okay. I didn't see the danger. I carelessly fell right into the trap. Okay, author's choice. Why have they used the word carelessly here? It tells us they weren't looking. They didn't see it. Perhaps they were walking along, texting, not looking around. Perhaps they were just focusing on something up in the sky and they weren't looking around at the ground. A little bit careless because they weren't looking where they were going. Carelessly fell into the trap. If you're falling down and you are ready to, fall over, what do you do with your hands? Remember that word? It was clutch. What does clutch mean? To hold onto something tightly, usually when you're anxious or fearful. Remember that was from week 1, clutch. Okay, can you find it? Hands clutched at the air as I tumbled down, down, down. My hands clutched at the air as I tumbled down, down, down. Author's choice. Why have they repeated that word? Why, when I read it, does my voice change? Down, down, down. Where do you think this person's headed? Probably to a lair, I'm guessing, because it was one of our vocab words. Tumble down, down, down. Now, can you see here where the author has used a simile? Can you find a section here where the author chooses to say, like a? Now, something going down, down, down. Found it? Like a ball that has been thrown down the stairs. Can you start to build that mental model, that image in your head? You now have a person, the protagonist, the lead character in this story. They're moving carelessly. They're falling down, 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 like a ball that's been thrown down the stairs. What's going to happen next? They're fallen. Probably something physical has happened to them. I hit my head hard. Aha, that could fit. Something physical. What would come next? Hit their head hard. something in this next part of the story has to link with hitting their head. Now, have a look at my face. What am I wearing? What would be damaged if I hit my head hard? Can you find it? Got it? Okay, let's bring it up. Also, we know that this starts with a binding conjunction because, so we know that it's bound to this first part of the sentence. I hit my head hard because as I sat up, I noticed my eyeglasses would need to be repaired. Second vocab word. Okay, so this poor protagonist, they have been carelessly strolling around. They have fallen down somewhere. They've hit their head. They're probably not feeling all that great. Their glasses need repairing. What is the next part in this story? Okay, they've looked around. They're sitting up. These are our choices. Looking around, sitting up. The hairs on the back of their neck. What order does this make sense? The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I slowly looked around. That could work. It could also be I slowly looked around. Aha, this is my hint. And it's joining on to the next part. So even though it made sense for this to go first, and then this, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I slowly looked around. I can't do it that way because the author is telling me that this happens first because here is my joiner. And I slowly looked around and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Dun, dun, dun. Why? I was in some kind of animal's lair. Vocabulary and author's choice. Now, when you write, you get to be your own author, of course, and you can choose what dramatic effects you use in a narrative. Sometimes a short sentence adds drama because you're anticipating it's short and it's succinct and it doesn't have a flow. You're wanting the next part of the information. Sometimes really long, complicated sentences build up an idea of something. You get to choose. Let's now have a look at this piece of text, all completed just like the author intended. Okay, what I would like you to do is I would like you to zoom in on this chart. I would like you to pause the video. I would like you to read through. Make sure you can find those 2 vocabulary words that we looked at. Really important. I want you to read it out loud first. Pretend it's you standing in front of this video camera, or better yet, ask someone or film yourself on your phone if you have one. And make sure your voice has lots of effect built in, so you're not sounding like a robot, because that's boring. Okay, so pause, read it out loud a couple of times, and then we'll move on. Okay, how did you go? Let's read together. Let's put lots of energy into our voices. Make it dramatic because it's a narrative here. Let's go. Read along together. The lair. I didn't see the danger. I carelessly fell right into the trap. My hands clutched at the air as I tumbled down, 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 like a ball that's been thrown down the stairs. I hit my head hard because as I sat up, I noticed that my eyeglasses would need to be repaired. I slowly looked around and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I was in some kind of animal's lair. Now, take a snapshot in your brain, close your eyes, and build that picture in your mind. Picture that animal's lair. What's in there? Is it light? Is it dark? Is there any colour at all? What's on the ground? Is there any water in there? Really take a clear picture of the image that this author has built up for you. Excellent. Also, you can imagine that you are a movie director. Now, part of your job is to direct the people doing set design. Imagine you had to set up a 3D model of this lair where this protagonist, we don't know her name, where this protagonist fell. Excellent. And that's when we talk about that mental model. That's what the author wanted us to do. Terrific. Next task. Last little snippet for today. When we're learning new vocabulary, this is another little mini routine that we can go through in our minds and on our boards to make sure we really understand the parts of a word. So this is called OPGSME. See how I've got the first letter written down here? So the O stands for we orally say it. We make sure that we can say and speak the word clearly. Then we record the phonemes, the graphemes, we segment it into syllables. Then we look at the morphemes and the etymology. Okay, our word, we're just going to do one, just so I can show you how it works. Our word today is carelessly. Can you repeat it, please? Nice, clear articulation. Carelessly. Okay, let's now write that word down so that we can record the phonemes. Oh, tap and say the phonemes first before we record the graphemes. Carelessly. K, L, E, S, L, E. Okay? Let's now write the graphemes that go with those phonemes. L, S, L. Now, this is a bit of a prompt word because it's not the air that we're doing this week, but it's coming up. So stay tuned for this spelling of air. It will be coming your way shortly. Carelessly. Now we segment into syllables. Carelessly. Excellent. Now we actually break this word into its morphemes. Remember, a morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning within a word, okay? Now, today it's really quite simple because the syllables and the morphemes completely match up. So they have actually done a lot of work for us. Carelessly. Not always do these match. Today they do. Excellent. So, care. Now we look at the meanings of these morphemes. Care, it's actually a really old word. It comes from, I'm checking my notes down here because I don't want to get this wrong. It actually comes from the 14th and 15th century. And this word, care, it actually means to take in hand, to take something in hand. So we know it as looking after. We use it in a sentence, you know, I take care of my pets. We use it like that. Less means without. And lee, now you do know this morpheme, lee means like or how. So let's put all of that morphology together because our protagonist moved carelessly. So less means without. What did they do? They moved without care. Lee, like or how. How did they do it? Lee, they moved carelessly. Excellent. All right, the last little part to this procedure, this routine, is the etymology. Now, sometimes etymology is really simple. Sometimes etymology is quite complicated, but the more we know about a word, the easier it is for us to use the word and understand its spelling. Now, this word here comes from an old Latin word, cura. And then it started to change from Old Latin into, well, we call it, Old French comes in next, doesn't it? But cura, you can see how over time this became care. And the very original meaning meant to take someone's hand when they were in sorrow or grief. So that's the meaning, the old origin of that word. Etymology. So much to learn around that. Well done. Over the next few weeks, we might practice another one of this OPG SME strategy. Excellent. Lots of new learning, lots of talking today, but I hope you have a lot of thinking. So let's review our learning intention. So there were 2 things we targeted in this lesson. The first one was those 2 vocabulary words. So those 2 vocabulary words were lair and repair. And they had that air grapheme, A-I-R, air. And then the second part was that we looked at a jumbled story where we needed to focus on the author's choice for vocabulary and sentence structure. Well done. Before I go, we do need that independent activity. Independent activity today is you be the illustrator. So remember how we talked a lot about building up that mental image in your head? It's called building a mental model. So remember I asked you to imagine that you were a set designer, or you can be an illustrator. That's that other word, sketch. 2 choices. Take a sentence from the reading passage today and illustrate that sentence. Or, if you would like to, you could create a 3D set design of a sentence from the reading passage. So have a look on your screen now, and you can see that we have the sentence, we have the reading passage and we have the sentences all highlighted. Choose one of those sentences and either illustrate in a detailed illustration or create a 3D set. Bring it to life. Thanks. I'll see you tomorrow.